Today I want to talk to you about some small changes that you can make to get more out of your program. If you're not getting results from your training, sometimes you can feel like, oh, maybe I need more exercises in my program, or maybe I need to add another day in. But instead of doing more, you might just need to apply a few principles to your training to get more out of the sessions themselves. Getting more out of each rep and more out of each set is far more beneficial than just adding more on. We call that junk volume, when you're just adding for the sake of adding. When you can get more out of what you're already doing, you're going to get results faster, and you leave yourself with more room for recovery, more time for days off, more time for meal prep, more time for organizing your life. One of my favorite tools to apply to a program is called tempo. You will notice that in your program, every exercise has a tempo applied. If you're not using it just yet, let this video be your guide so you can get more out of the sessions that I've written for you. If you apply the tempo correctly, you'll get more out of the workout, you'll burn more calories, you'll get stronger, you'll have more quality contractions, and then in the times of your program where I reduce the tempo, you'll be able to express that strength that you've built safely. So what is tempo? These numbers that show up in your program: 4010, 2210, 3210. What does that mean? Let's get into it. So there will be four numbers: 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's start off with the most basic tempo and the one that you're going to see the most often, which is 2, 0, 1, 0. Now what does that actually mean? Each one of these numbers represents a part of the movement, a part of the contraction, and the numbers themselves represent how many seconds you're going to be spending in that part of the contraction. So our first number, this is applied to the eccentric portion of the movement, which means the lengthening of the muscle or the lowering of the weight, or the moving the weight with gravity. So I think eccentric, easy. It's the easy part of the movement where you're letting go. So in a squat, for example, it's where you are lowering the weight. The second number applies to how long you spend at the bottom. If that's 0, we don't pause. If that's a 2, we pause for 2 seconds. The third number is the lifting of the weight, the push or the pull, the contraction, the hard part, the work of the rep. And if you haven't worked it out already, the last number is how long you spend in that top position. Let's try another one. 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's do this as a squat example. So this first number, the lowering of the weight, we're down for 1, 2, 3. We pause for 1, 2. We lift for 1, no pause, straight back down, 1, 2, 3. Make sense? Where this might be a little bit more confusing is if you're working with like a pulley system, it's like something like a lat pull down, where this 3, the weight is technically going up, but it's always the release of the weight, or the with gravity. So you would be releasing for 3, pausing for 2 in the stretch, 1, contract, no pause at the bottom, release for 1, 2, 3, stretch for 1, 2, contract for 1, no pause, and go again. So you might wonder, like, why slow it down? What benefit does this achieve? And particularly with the eccentric, which is where I'm usually going to be slowing you down, it can be really beneficial to help build strength and avoid injury, particularly for beginner lifters. See, our tendons and ligaments don't get strong as fast as our muscles get strong, and a lot of the time people's strength progresses quite quickly as they're a newbie lifter and they end up hurting themselves. Slowing down the eccentric just caps the load that we're going to be using. So there's less stress on the system, less stress on those tendons and ligaments, and you'll be much more injury resilient. The other reason for slowing down the eccentric portion is that increasing strength in the eccentric phase carries over to strength in the concentric phase. I might have one block of your program where you've got tempos with slow eccentrics and pauses, and then the next block of your program might have just a 2-0-1-0, so you don't have the pauses and you have a slightly less slowed down eccentric phase. Once we remove those slow tempos, the load that you can use is a lot higher. So it allows you to express that strength that you've built more safely in the other phase. The reason for putting pauses on help with explosive strength. We'll go back to the squat example. If you've had to pause down the bottom, you can't use any sort of momentum or bounce to get you out of the hole. If you've had to pause and hold, you need to use all of your contractile strength to get you up out of the hole. So that will express in your ability to jump higher, to push faster, and to move more weight out of that bottom position. So while it will cap the load that you can use while the pause is there, once we release the pause, you're going to be able to move more explosively out of that position. I very rarely put a slow tempo on the concentric phase. Essentially, we want this moving as fast as possible always. If your training intensity is right, that's going to slow down towards the end of your set anyway. The intention is always to lift it in 1 second, but by the end of your set, that might take 1, 2, 3, 4 to get it up. And that's okay, that's actually what we want. If at the very end of your set, you're moving back up in 1 second, you are not lifting heavy enough. And pauses at the top end, in some exercises, that's elongating a stretch, and we're holding onto that stretch position. In other exercises, that's holding you in the contracted position, and so you may or may not see a pause at the end there. But the most likely place you're going to see a pause is in the second number. The most likely place that you're going to see a slowed number is this one here. If your programs are written by me, on every single exercise, there's a small tempo guide at the bottom of each video. Just zoom in on the screen and you'll see whether it's the lowering phase or the lifting phase that corresponds to any part of that tempo. When in doubt with tempo, always have a slow controlled release phase and an explosive push or pull. Sometimes I know doing all the counting of the tempo and the reps gets confusing, and you're counting 2, 2, 1, 0, 3, 2, 1, 0, 4, 2, 1, 2, and get confused. It's okay. When in doubt, slow eccentric, fast concentric. If you haven't been applying this to your programs already, make sure you get onto it straight away, and I guarantee you better results.